Hello, everybody. I think we are ready to get started. Good afternoon and welcome to the What's New in Azure SQL Managed Instance session. Today with you, myself and my colleague Vladimir Ivanovic will be talking about the announcement for SQL Managed Instance that are coming at Past Data Community Summit. So my name is Borko Novakovic. I'm the Group PM Manager responsible for Azure SQL Managed Instance. I've been with Microsoft for a little bit more than 12 years, and I've been a part of the SQL Managed Instance team from day one, from the initial crew. I'm leading the team of program managers, including Vladimir, and basically we are responsible for product definition end-to-end. So yeah.
My name is Vladimir Ivanovic. I'm part of Borko's team with Microsoft since SQL Server 2016, 2012, even before that. Happy to be here today. Let's rock.
Yes, let's immediately switch to agenda. For today, we'll do a little intro about the product, and then before we go into the key topic of what's new as of yesterday, we'll want to do a summary of what we released recently, just not to forget some other interesting and very helpful innovations. Then, of course, focus of this session will be on what has been released at Past Data Community Summit, and then we'll use the opportunity to give you a sneak peek into what team is kind of preparing and cooking for the future. So how many of you are using SQL Managed Instance? Okay. And for those who are not using, how many of you read or learned about Managed Instance? Okay, so you are pretty knowledgeable crew. Okay, then we can do a super quick introduction about what SQL Managed Instance is. This is our favorite slide, Azure SQL family of happy family members. So yeah, in Azure SQL we offer SQL Server in various form factors, but basically two management models. One is infrastructure as a service, which is pretty much customer managed environment. Customers are very responsible for running the SQL Server and maintaining the SQL Server. And then on the right-hand side, we have two platform as a service offering, Managed Instance and SQL Database. And now, of course, why two? People typically ask. It's because SQL Managed Instance is really primarily designed to help you with modernizing existing application that have been running in production for many, many years. Strict requirements, strict dependencies on SQL, a lot of SQL different features, and then SQL Database is pretty much better suited for starting with the new applications, right? Of course, what is great to know that all of these products are actually shipped from the same code base. So this is the same good SQL Server. They share a lot of features in common, of course, all tools that you've been using. So basically, if you are an experienced SQL Server user, your kind of a journey with SQL MI will be very, very smooth. So now, let's quickly talk about product updates that happened earlier this year. But before going into that, we would love to present you how we in SQL MI team think about enduring teams that are really something that our customers always asking about. So this frame is actually helping us to define the future of the product. And this frame has been adopted more than a year ago. So throughout this presentation, you'll see that are sticking to this frame very, very strictly. And we are making deliberate choices what and where to invest. So for us, if you take a look at this diagram, central piece of this is really making SQL Managed Instance be the best cloud service to run your existing SQL Server application. So this is really providing the industry-leading capabilities on platform as a service offering, right? Now, on the left-hand side, we have investments to make sure that basically SQL Managed Instance has a great deal of interoperability with SQL servers running anywhere. That pretty much means natively supporting features that SQL Server has been introducing for many, many years, now 30 years, obviously, right? And then investing in various database and data mobility capabilities to allow you to communicate between different parts of your hybrid estates. For example, if you're running SQL Server on-premise or in other clouds and you're running SQL MI, we want to make sure that overall experience for you in terms of data exchange and data interoperability is great. So this is what we call connected hybrid SQL estates, right? And then on the right-hand side, one enduring topic that always has been present, and I believe it's going to be present for many, many years, it's coming from our customers who ask, hey, how I can continuously drive cost of running SQL Managed Instance and entire SQL estate down? How I can optimize? How I can pay only for what I use, and because that's the core promise of the cloud, right? So in this area, we are very deliberate to invest in different pricing models that will help you land on the optimal price, and then also to invest in product features that will help you optimize your cost of running a SQL Managed Instance. So remember this frame because we will be using this throughout this presentation. So kind of a mental, if you wish, structure which we use to define the product roadmap. Now, immediately applying this frame to the recent announcements that we had before this pass, but earlier this year. In this connected hybrid SQL estate area, there were a couple of things that we introduced. One is the Managed Instance link for SQL Server 2016 and 19 went to GA. And we'll talk about that. We'll first talk about Managed Instance link and then also what this GA means, what kind of a scenario we actually enabled with that. Then also just to put that in, bring that to your attention, relatively recently, we also supported restoring backups from AWS S3 to SQL Managed Instance for easier, let's say, interoperability scenarios or migration scenarios from AWS to Azure. Then on the programmability side, export with create external table as, which is an additional feature in data virtualization space, we actually open some interesting set of scenarios. And finally, there is also approximate percentile functions that have been added to SQL Server and also other form factors of SQL in Azure, of course in SQL Managed Instance. That helps you not only to expand the scope of your application and develop your application, but also if you're coming from on-premise, which already has this feature, so that you can easily migrate. So basically, those were the improvements that we landed earlier this year in this area. Now, let's talk about. On the previous slide, this marking means that we are going to do a quick deep dive into 2 out of these 4 features. So data virtualization is basically for you who are experienced SQL Server users. This is a new generation of Polybase. As a matter of fact, Polybase in 2022 and now in SQL Managed Instance is actually powered by the same set of technology. We actually re-architectured the story completely, improved the internal implementation, and one of these set of capabilities landed on SQL Managed Instance. Now, what kind of scenarios you can achieve with data virtualization? Of course, you can use that to quickly explore data that are sitting outside of database, but in files in Azure Blob Storage or Azure Data Lake. Then, of course, you can build a relational abstraction on top of structures that are sitting around database. So basically, you can kind of look at the data sitting in the database and outside of the database in files as a single picture or single perspective, having the relational abstraction, right? But then there are additional scenarios that can be achieved with this. One of these is kind of getting very popular, which is data archiving. Okay, we're running in the cloud, size of data is increasing, and then is it possible for you to archive the data that you don't need or use every day, but still be able to query the data very regularly without actually significant changes to your application? That's one scenario. An additional scenario, which we also opened with, is you can export or import data using the kind of have a way to do a lightweight ETL process with the data virtualization. How data virtualization works? So basically, it relies on a concept of an external table, and external tables are pointers to the files and folders that reside in Azure Data Lake and Azure Blob Storage, and formats that we support, Parquet, CSV, and JSON, right? So with this abstraction, you can actually relatively easily integrate your non-relational data with your relational data, and different constructs that you can use range from open row set, which is a very kind of a quick and exploratory way to see what is in the files and folders. Then, of course, you can use the external table as a first-class citizen to build that as a strong object that you're going to use and reference. And then, as relatively recently, a couple of months back, we actually introduced the create external table as select, which means that you can take your data from relational database and export to data lake or blob. So either you do that for the archiving purposes or to bring that data in proximity of Fabric, which is very popular these days. So you can now take the data and analyze with the notebooks, Power BI, Synapse, and other services residing in Fabric. So basically, a neat and easy way to do that. Okay, another feature that we want to quickly visit and talk about is Managed Instance Link. Managed Instance Link is not a new thing, but it has been evolving, and even today we are going to talk about some additional evolution steps of what it is, right? So it's a feature that is based on a always own technology stack that we use and create to establish the continuous replication from SQL Server running outside of Azure or even in Azure in an IaaS form and SQL Managed Instance. And that replication is pretty much powered by the distributed availability group that we create and configure for you. And with that, you can actually achieve various set of scenarios, right? So you can just replicate your data from on-premise, and then one of the scenarios that can be very useful for you, you can basically say, I can build my additional or new reporting system in Azure while my primary data is still on-premise, right? And then I can attach Power BI, I can attach other services, just working on copy of data while my primary is still on-premise, right? Or you can migrate, you can use my link even to, and by the way, you can keep that link for days, weeks, months, even years, right? Now, at some moment you may decide, hey, this is very convenient, I can even migrate to SQLMI altogether and completely. So you can use MI-Link as a very fast and easy way to do that. Or, as of last year, we introduced a new capability which is associated only with SQL Server 2022, and that's the disaster recovery setup between SQL Server 2022 and Managed Instance. Thanks to the fact that Managed Instance Link supported bidirectional replication, both in both directions, you can actually do this as a DR setup. Now, what we announced earlier this year was general availability for Managed Link supporting 2016 and 2019. And in these scenarios, Managed Instance Link is still unidirectional, but reach the general availability. With unidirectional link, you can copy data from on-premises to Managed Instance, but basically in opposite direction, that's not possible. Why? Because Managed Instance is running on a higher version of SQL Server, right? It currently is 2022. So you cannot replicate data using the physical replication methods from 2022 to 2016. Still, you can use this Managed Instance Link for two scenarios, like building the operational reporting in the cloud, offloading your read-only workloads, or to quickly migrate. But there is also another interesting thing that happened around the same time. We introduced this license-free benefit for this scenario, for actually using for disaster recovery scenarios. And that license-free benefit pretty much means if you are using SQL Managed Instance as your failover destination, and if it's passive, which means that you're not actively using SQLMI for running the queries, powering your application and workloads, then you are not required to pay licenses, right, for that. Now, the second let's say, topic, and for us is really building the best cloud service for SQL applications. And recently, in that bucket, if you wish, we deliver a couple of things in performance and security areas, right? So for the performance, you may have noticed that in business critical service tier, we double the log throughput compared to original value. So basically, now the log throughput in business critical service tier can go up to 192 megabytes per second, right? Then also we open larger sizes of instances up to 128 vCores, and originally it was only 18, right? And then we offer the additional configuration for TempDB, which is important for tuning the workloads which are heavy on TempDB, and then XML compression was also introduced to improve the performance of the queries using XML and also to optimize the storage consumption of queries using XML. In security space, couple of things. One of the most wanted and a long-awaited features for us was the introduction of a private link. And we are happy to say earlier this year it went to GA. A lot of users, a lot of adoption we see across the board. We'll talk about that more. And then a couple of things such as automated key rotation for TDE, right, which really helps you manage the environments where you where customers manage their keys their own. And then a couple of other things like Purview, DevOps policies entered the public preview, and Ledger actually entered also the public preview now. The news as of yesterday, the Ledger is GA. We'll be talking about that as well. So a rich set of improvements. I'm going to just a little bit talk about the private link that really is a way for customers to create very complex topologies with SQL-MI, but yet keep the networking part of the topology as simple as possible. So before the private link, customers had to connect their application directly to SQL Managed Instance. They had to deal with connecting. It was pretty much application to instance scenario, right? Private link is actually opening a different set of scenario, which is virtual network to managed instance. So basically, now customers are able to put a additional, let's say, layer of abstraction on top of the SQL Managed Instances. So, and then with private link application, instead of directly connecting to managed instance, they can connect to that virtual network. Why is that beneficiary? It's actually very useful because, especially in large environments, instead of configuring every instance to every application to talk with many of instances, you can actually consolidate that and then point your application to VNet and then control all access in that VNet. And then from that VNet, you have a kind of a private connection to managed instances, routing the traffic directly. So very, very good for simplification. Also can be used to strengthen the on-premise to MI connectivity, again, through this kind of a proxy virtual network. The additional rules and inspection can be implemented. Also, for some customers or some scenarios, using the VNet local endpoint wasn't possible. So customers had to open public endpoint. But public endpoint is not very, I mean, all the supports firewall rules and everything else, doesn't allow you to really use the deepest level of control and protection. So with this, you can actually use the private link and then use the firewalls and all other devices, virtual devices, to control traffic and then pass the traffic towards managed instance. So basically, it's a much better way to use public access. And finally, very important, you know that a lot of services in Azure are not VNet injected. And since they are not VNet injected, in order to open the connectivity to SQL-MI, you must let these services to go to public endpoint, which is really not applicable for many of the customers. So basically, now these services can safely communicate with SQL-MI. This is Azure to Azure communication, but actually going through the backbone instead of the public IP address ranges. So basically, a lot of application and even more scenarios for this feature. You can explore this AKMS link. and hopefully it can help you simplify your networking topologies with SQL Managed Instance. And then on the optimal cost of running, I already mentioned hybrid failover rights, but these failover rights are not applicable only in hybrid environment. As a matter of fact, we introduced one of these hybrid failover rights in Azure scenarios. So for example, if you are using a SQL Managed Instance in failover group configuration, you have managed instance in primary region, you have managed instance in secondary region. If you declare that your managed instance in secondary region is standby, you're not using that for querying or analytics and everything, then you can basically, you are eligible not to pay for SQL license. So this is the failover rights in GDR scenario, right? And then finally, we also increase number of subscription that SQL Managed Instance can be provided on. Those are mainly sponsored subscriptions, so definitely it was interesting for first-time users and users who are using Microsoft sponsored subscriptions, right? I think I talked about this hybrid failover rights. This basically slide just summarizes what I have, but also it has this nice diagram or nice screenshot here, right? Basically, when you create your managed instance, there is a third choice for saving the cost, third choice for kind of a license management. If you don't have license, you'll typically choose pay-as-you-go. If you want to migrate and you bring your own license, you'll choose the Azure Hybrid benefit. But if you don't want to migrate, but just use MI as a disaster recovery, you can just say, this is the third use case, hybrid failover rights. Again, this is technology agnostic. No matter what is your technology to replicate data to MI or vice versa, this benefit can apply. And then everything that applies for passive replica, you cannot use that to power your application, reporting application or whatnot, but you can definitely do some management tasks like copy-only backups, consistency checks, and so on. And then this is another, let's say, tool in your tool set to reduce cost of running on SQL Managed Instance, along with failover rights in GDR case, along with the free license for dev test, and along with the bring your own license or Azure hybrid benefits. So a lot of benefits for the customers who do have software assurance. Now, since we are ending the period from last pass till end of October, let's say, I'm going to pause here for maybe a few questions.
I think we want to keep going and leave the Q&A for the end.
Okay, thanks, Vlad. Then let's quickly go to the main section of this presentation. Just for you, everything that we talk here, it's summarized in this blog post. Basically, the blog post is organized the way this presentation is. It has coverage of earlier announcements and then coverage of the announcements for PaaS, so you can use it as a reference after this session. But let's then move on. Again, going to this frame, and then let's see how this frame applies to PaaS announcements. So again, what are the things or new capabilities that we are adding to hybrid area? The most important one is really the now online disaster recovery between SQL Server 2022 and SQL MI reached the unlimited preview. It was in sort of a gated preview since last year, and we had more than 100 customers who actually applied and tested that, but now it's open for everybody. No sign up, nothing special is needed for you now to test MI link between SQL Server 2022 and Managed Instance to replicate data in both direction, perform failovers in both direction, and see how that potentially fits your scenarios. As you will see from the upcoming slides, it's not meant only to be used in disaster recovery scenarios. It can be also used if you have any requirement to, for example, deliver your data that are sitting on Managed Instance to customers or partners who are not in Azure or not using Managed Instance. If you need to create a copy of your database and deliver that to your partners or customers, that's now possible. distributed transactions, and database copy and move are also interesting scenarios. We will cover these features in more details, all features in more details. So this slide actually is a recap of or a reminder that, okay, those two capabilities were already were there before past 2023, and then what's new? MI-Link disaster recovery and ability for the first time now to create link starting from managed instance to SQL Server 2022. So for example, you've been a long time user of SQL MI, you had the requirement to deliver your data outside of Azure or to customers that are not do not have access to your managed instance. Now you can use that with the MI-Link capability. And then how we improve the disaster recovery scenario. Last year, we introduced the database compatibility, let's say database compatibility feature in SQL MI. Starting from November 2022, SQL MI is fully compatible with and continuously compatible with 2022. What does it mean? It means you can just take the backup from on MI and restore elsewhere on SQL 2022, which is running in any place, right? So we call that offline fallback. So for example, if you migrated to SQL MI and due to any reason you want to move the data back, you could have done that by using the backups. Now with MI-Link, it actually becomes an online fallback. So you can just set up the link will initiate the replication, there will be data synchronization. At some point, you can either break the link, so you have a copy of the data elsewhere, or you just fail over to that place, and then you're running outside of MI. If you keep the link, you can also swing back. So it's basically a continuous bidirectional link that connects SQL MI with SQL Server running outside of SQL MI environment. So I think that's going to be a huge thing for many of the customers, and that can open an interesting set of scenarios. Database copy and move. This is for the database mobility between your managed instances. For example, you are running a farm of SQL managed instances, and there are kind of let's talk separately about the move and copy, right? So move, I think it's really suited well for ISV type of customers, right? So you have a farm of managed instances, you have pretty much common schema for the database, and then you pack your let's say 10 databases on a single instance, and then at some point the instance becomes busy or overwhelmed with a lot of workloads. You can basically use this a move mechanism to just replicate data to another instance and fail over in a very seamless way, right? So basically it helps you to load balance your workload across multiple instances if you need so, right? Or one instance becomes caught, you create another instance, fail over one of these databases, and then relax the farm of your instances. So this is one case for the move. Copy, I think, has much more scenarios. Typically, it's used when it's very useful when you want to create a copy of your database and deliver it to some kind of a downstream systems. Maybe Q&A, UAT, quality assurance, UAT systems, dev test systems. So if you want to refresh your dev test environments on a regular basis, you can do that using the copy, right? So again, while copy is running, secondary database being built, and then you can choose which moment you actually break the link and have the copy of the database up and running. It is using the always-on technology behind the scenes, so it's a physical replication happening between the instances. And then additional thing for these hybrid scenarios is happy to announce that support for MSDTC in SQL MI entered the GA. It was in a public preview since last year, now it's GA. What does it mean? It means that along with SQL Engine and a couple of other services, satellite services that we host and manage for you, now the DTC is also one of these, right? So we will be managing and patching DTC for you. And then now it means that you can run a distributed transaction in an environment when you have participant on SQL MI, participant on SQL Server running in Azure or outside of Azure, or applications that use MSDTC to achieve these scenarios. And there are pretty much different setup. So the protocols that we support, T-SQL, .NET with transaction scope, and then XA, Java XA protocol is also supported, right? So we believe that this can be very, very interesting, especially for the application that have been using distributed transaction, which had this dependency in place. We would love to show you demo for the distributed transaction. This time around, I'm going to play the demo. I'm not going to run the demo. So one of our colleagues recorded the demo. So it's just 2 minutes. Let's give it a chance.
With DTC for Azure SQL Managed Instance, you can run distributed transactions in mixed environments. That means between multiple SQL MIs and SQL servers hosted anywhere, and other RDBMSs, third-party and custom applications also hosted anywhere. To do this, you need to configure SQL MI DTC, its security, networking, and DNS settings. And you need to do similar with your other hosts that run other transaction participants. With everything configured, let's see the demo. We have Azure SQL Managed Instance that is hosting clients DB, and we have SQL Server that hosts Sales DB. Here we have connection towards SQL Server, and we will run distributed transaction that will process a payment. It will select one payment from the table, and then it will update some data on Azure SQL Managed Instance, and also update some data on local SQL Server, and it will commit transaction. Let's run this. And we see distributed transaction between SQL Server and Azure SQL Managed Instance was successful. Let's see another example. We have accounts and some of them are closed. We have SSI's job that takes one closed account and moves it to archive table. This job is configured with transaction option required, and it will successfully run because Azure SQL Managed Instance DTC is configured. Let's run this job. It runs successfully. Let's see the outcome. And we see that account 11 has been successfully archived, meaning that SSI's job successfully executed against Azure SQL Managed Instance with configured DTC.
So I hope this example was useful and interesting. Definitely opens up some new scenarios and possibilities, and we are seeing also a very healthy uptake of usage of DTC in recent period. With that, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Vlad to actually cover the improvements in two remaining areas.
Thank you, Borko. All right. Awesome. So as Borko said, the central pillar of our frame, which is our ambition to become the best cloud database service for SQL Server workloads, is always in fashion, and we always invest a lot here. And in this past summit, we're announcing a number of things. So first off, you probably recall how Borko mentioned that we've doubled the log rate for business critical and also increased the maximum number of vCores to 128. There's a set of additional enhancements here that create an even more powerful package out of business critical. Also GA, this past summit, this fast instance creation, and this one I'm personally super proud about because this was possibly one of the oldest pieces of feedback we've got. Sounds like the audio is down, but I think you can probably hear me. Can the folks hear me? I can speak up. I need to speak up. Okay.
But it's recorded, so I think.
Oh. Let's see what happens. Let me check. No. Oh, we're back. Awesome.
Cool.
So the fast instance creation. So typically, since the early days of managed instance, it took several hours for instance to provision, thanks to the fact that SQL Managed Instance is VNet injected, which makes things more complex for us as we provision things for you. But we've managed to get it down to 30 minutes for the first instance in the subnet, and we're going to keep pushing until this is super fast. So this is a major milestone, but by no means an end to our journey to improve the elasticity. HA and DR, zone redundancy is here. It's GA for business critical. It's in public preview for general purpose, and it's going to be GA as soon as we get to it next year. And then in security, we're super proud to announce the GA of Ledger, which essentially guarantees that your databases are tamper-free in a way that's auditable. So a major concern is now out of the picture. I want to spend more time on the updates for business critical and on zone redundancy. So business critical now, the log throughput, this is something Borko mentioned in the left-hand side. And we also mentioned that the new maximum is now 128 vCores. But we've also introduced more click stops. We used to have 8 click stops, 4 cores, 8, 16, and so on. Now with 16 click stops, it's much more granular. So you can fine tune and right size your instance to exactly what you need. Again, improving your price performance, you don't have to over provision as much. You can tailor fit your SQL MI, if you will. Now, the most important part of this second batch of improvements to BC is in the third pillar. And this is probably one of the most requested features, which is how much storage can I get in business critical at certain amounts of vCores? And that has been doubled. It used to take 16 vCores in premium series to unlock 2 terabytes. Now you can unlock 2 terabytes with 8 vCores and get 4 terabytes at 16 vCores, and so on. Giving you much better ratio of storage to vCore, and again, better efficiency for workloads that are not as CPU intensive, but they are storage intensive. And finally, we've also enabled the 16 terabytes of storage in the premium series, and not just the memory optimized premium series hardware generation, giving you more flexibility to pick exactly what you need. Business critical was probably the fastest SQL Server database service out there even before this, because it's the only system that runs on local SSDs in any of the basically cloud providers. So this set of improvements make it even more effective for you because it reduces the price while keeping the performance.
Okay, but let's take one question from the audience.
So if we want to take advantage of this, do we have to create a new MI, or will the existing MI already have this?
So thank you. The question was, is this applicable to existing instances? And the answer is yes. Starting yesterday, all of the existing business critical instances have all of these capabilities. If you go to the portal, you're going to see the new click stops, you're going to see the new maximum storage at vCore, and so on. All right, I'll keep going. Oh, one more question?
Yes, thank you. So we have seen a lot of improvement in this strategies, and that is very helpful for us. However, the transaction log throughput is still far below a modern USB 3 key. Why this? This is, let me say sorry, I apologize. It's really crappy.
Thank you. So you heard the final part of the question. So the question starts with, it's crappy, right? And the crappy part is the transaction log rate. And you're right, as the transaction log rates can be even bigger. And we have increased them. This is the first pillar, 2x in this update. There are challenges for us limiting how fast we can actually keep increasing this limit. And I'm happy to take, if we have more time, a more detailed question to this or stay after the call. But more improvements there are coming as the infrastructure under SQL Managed Instance gets better, then we can deliver these enhancements to our trusted customers.
Because this improvement really...
Stay until end of the presentation.
Yes.
I'll just aside Bob Ward, who said you can always find a laptop that is faster than SQL in Azure. But why? Because SQL in Azure is actually highly available and taking all the backups and building the resilience. So it's not apple-to-apple comparison. But here your feedback, very valued. Thanks, and stay until the end of the presentation. We have something to show.
Zone redundancy. It is actually very simple on the outside. You get a new checkbox, right? On the inside, below the waterline, right, we had to move mountains. But we're super glad that this is finally out there. It's like a cherry on top on all of the high availability and BCDR story in managed instance. And essentially a crown jewel giving you fantastic flexibility in terms of how you want to architect your HA and BCDR story. So every database in Azure SQL, including database and managed instance, has this first option, which is the essentially restore from a backup to another location. By default, each account for backup has geo redundancy set to GRS, which is globally redundant. You could change this, but by default, this is your BCDR story, and it's included and free of charge. It has limitations, as you can see. And then up until recently, the geo replication to another region was your only alternative, right? So in case of a regional outage, you can rely on geo replication to save the day. Zone redundancy slots in between, and I think it has the best advantages of both. As in, first off, it is synchronous replication, right? Which guarantees zero data loss. So we're essentially distributing the resources within the same region while keeping the replication synchronous. That's one advantage. The other advantage is a favorable price structure relative to GeoDR, and also the fact that the failover is automatic. So essentially, you don't have to do anything. You're just automatically protected from a broader class of outages, including some of the data center level outages that happen very rarely, but can be very disruptive. And then coming to the third pillar, again, Borko is adamant about this. We have to keep improving the value, not just in terms of new features, but also making it cost effective to run. This time around, we have some really big announcements. So reserved instance pricing is now available for premium series hardware. Many customers have been requesting this for many months now. It's finally out there. Glad to announce this. And two new items is our start-stop for general purpose instances. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in the following slides, and the free offer. Real quick about reserved instances for premium series hardware. So reserved instance pricing, or RI for short, is a discount you're getting for an upfront commitment. So if you're committing to a 1 year, you're getting 35% discount on your compute prices. For 3-year commitment, the discount is 55%. We see a lot of our customers leveraging this for getting an even better deal. Before past 2023, reserved instance discount was available only for the standard series hardware. Now, it's available for all hardware generations, including premium and premium memory optimized. This is especially important for business critical instances because the new hardware generations allow larger instance sizes. And also, this benefit can now apply to any type of managed instance. The start and stop capability is new in managed instance, applies to general purpose tier only. Essentially allows you to stop your database compute when you don't need it. This is why it's available only for remote storage architecture, general purpose, and not for business critical. Because when your instance is stopped, you're still paying for the storage, but your instance storage is safe. Your state is safe in the remote storage. The interesting situations come along when you start combining all of these benefits. What we mean by this is, let's say I had an environment which is a dev test environment that I'm using during workdays. So if I'm using pay-as-you-go license, I will have to pay $825. With applying the benefit of dev test subscription, which is another benefit that is available to Azure customers, Azure SQL customers. Dev test subscriptions do not have to pay for the license cost. So your price goes down to $533. If we are smart about using start-stop to turn the instance off while we're not using it, which is outside of the working hours designated here, our price for compute dramatically falls down to only less than a third, to $160. And it's not just that, but if we were to apply the 1-year reserved instance discount, even without the start-stop, we go from $533 to $346, the 35% discount. And the combination of the two gets you all the way down to $104. So if you look at these numbers, they're incredible, actually, right? The first price you'll see often is $825, but with a commitment, with dev test license and start-stop, SQL Managed Instance becomes much more affordable. One interesting kind of pro-level trick, if you will, or optimization technique, is applying the reserved instance discount to, and the combination of reserved instance and start-stop, to have your essentially instances run in different shifts, quote unquote. So if I have a pack of instances running daytime and a pack of instances running nighttime, they can share the same reserved instance benefit. So in that case, effectively, although I have 4 instances, I only had 2 of them running at the same time. So a essentially smaller reserved instance benefit would cover me throughout. There's a lot essentially that you can do to fine-tune this, but we wanted to essentially share some of the best practices upfront here with you.
I must make one comment here, which is going forward, the role of DBAs will be more and more about saving money for their companies, right? So knowing all of these tips and tricks, you can really become heroes of cost optimization. I would love you to become heroes of cost optimization.
Right. Thanks, Borka. Great point. So how it works, right? There's 4 states, and I'm guessing all of you, but just by reading the names of these states, you've already figured it out. But what I want to call out here, you can manually do start and stop, but you can also create a schedule. And the advantage of the schedule is possibly not obvious, but it takes about 5 minutes to start the instance, to stop the instance, and about 20 minutes to start. So if we know ahead of time when you want your instance to be up, then essentially we can worry about how long ahead of time we need to start it for you. And then obviously when the instance is stopped, the billing is immediately disabled for the compute, even though it takes a few minutes to actually shut it down. I want to show you how easy it is to use start-stop. I want to switch to Azure Portal. I'm guessing most of you are familiar with this. It's a very simple and straightforward way to manage your instance. I'm connected to my PAS23 demo instance, which is running in a general purpose service tier. And it has this very cute start-stop schedule option available. When we open this up, it is exactly what you expected, right? So I've configured it to run between Monday 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then the same for every other day. So this is the 9 to 5 schedule. And it gives you an estimate in terms of how much is your saving going to be. So this instance is going to be stopped for 76% of the time. We can easily adjust this. So let's say we wanted to work a little bit longer on Mondays because some tests need to run. So changing this to say 9 p.m. We'll change the calculation so it's 73 instead of 76. You get the idea. But you can easily create your own schedule, click apply, and we'll start worrying about powering up your instance and powering it down for you.
We have one question from the audience. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I know this is a new feature, so if you have deployed the managed instance prior to this release in June, does Azure automatically include features for existing managed instance?
The question was whether the new features are deployed to existing instances, and the answer is yes, absolutely. All of the instances in general purpose tier have this capability available. And as with many other features, this is one of the points that Borko mentioned, right? Starting last November, we've established version compatibility between Managed Instance and SQL Server 2022. But as the new CUs roll out, the cumulative updates, we will incrementally apply those to your instances automatically. So you're running on the latest version, but you're still compatible with SQL Server 2022, allowing all of the hybrid scenarios that Borko explained to exist, while also allowing us to keep innovating and bringing new features in each wave.
Maybe one
yes.
more question.
Since it's a fairly new feature, has it been built into programmability? So like, can I do this using PowerShell?
Yes.
Yes.
The programmability support for this is available, sure. I'm sure many of you know, but I want to just call it out. Azure Portal is sitting on top of the REST API. So whatever you can do in Portal, you can also do in REST. And then eventually it shows up in PowerShell and CLI interfaces as well. Sometimes there's a little delay. But we try to make that delay as minimal as possible. But you're guaranteed to get at least REST API because the portal is actually using it under the hood.
And also, where applicable, Terraform is also being updated with this management operations.
Thank you. Good point.
Cool.
Moving on. I'd like us to actually finish with the absolute delighters. So if there's one thing you're going to take away, it's this one. We're really excited to release the free offer for SQL Managed Instance, and we've done our absolute best work to make it super powerful. You're getting 64 gigabytes of data storage for free and 720 vCore hours per month. What this means is that if you use start-stop and it's already enabled by default, you get to use your instance, a 4 vCore instance, every day, working hours, 9 hours, 5 days per week, 4 weeks per month, for 12 months. So it's not like a toy that you can play with for 3 days and then you need to drop it. You can really meaningfully evaluate, right? You can deeply learn about the product, take it for a real test drive, and then decide if you want to commit more to it or not. What I'm trying to say is you no longer have an excuse not to try SQL Managed Instance, right? This is coming soon. It's not months, it's weeks. You can be damn sure that we're going to announce it as loud as we can once it's out. But get ready. No questions here. So we wanted also to give you a little bit of a sneak peek into the future. So key investment teams for all the areas, and then we're going to move to Q&A.
Yes.
Back to you, Borko.
You can
run the
yeah,
slides.
definitely. Let's not switch. The frame, mental frame for us, if you wish, how we invest stays the same. Again, hybrid estates, making connected SQL MI within hybrid estates, like being very, very deliberate about continuing building the best cloud service for SQL application, and finally going with more cost optimization options for you. Now, in the first team, if you wish, you can expect from us to build experiences that are very integrated with Arc-enabled SQL servers and SQL Server VMs, right? So basically, you'll be seeing MI appearing in that ecosystem, and then we will give you some ideas how you can use SQL MI in addition to your Arc-enabled SQL Server and SQL VMs, right? So definitely, we want to invest in these better together scenarios, right?
One additional data point here, which is until a couple of years ago, a major investment theme for us was compatibility with SQL Server, and you no longer hear us talking about this because we feel like we've done a really great job there. So you no longer have to choose between running a cloud service or running in the cloud or being compatible. But now we're taking the distributed AG tech and into this link feature and trying to help you actually connect your SQL estate together as one whole and give you maximum flexibility in terms of how you want to run your workloads, one place, other place, in between, across, anything you can imagine.
Yes.
This is gonna continue to be a major theme for us. Yeah.
Yeah, and then in this second pillar, if you wish, I think the investments that are going to come will answer some of your concerns. A large portion of our fleet is on general purpose, and we need to do something about that. We are working intensively to make general purpose service tier much better, much uppercase. In terms of throughput, latency of storage, flexibility, limits that you can achieve. So please stay tuned. There is a very intensive engineering effort to basically create completely V2 of general purpose. Maybe Vlad, you want to add something there?
Yeah. So you've noticed that there were two packages of major improvements to business critical. One in the spring, summer timeframe, and the other one aligned with PASS, making business critical dramatically better, both in terms of the price and the price performance. A similar facelift is coming for general purpose with the same intention. We want to bring the latest stack in Azure ecosystem, because essentially we sit on Azure core, which is networking, compute, and storage. They've been innovating too, and we've been doing our best to integrate the latest and greatest technologies that Azure core makes available to everybody, including us, into our products. So essentially the facelift and revamp of general purpose is well underway.
Yes. And on the third front, Vlad already mentioned free evaluation for you guys on a meaningful SKU for a long enough period of time, so you can make a very informed decision whether or not to move to SQL Managed Instance. So that's one of the topics. But another topic is we are actively thinking about is, hey, if you are running a fleet of resources, if you are a massive user, if you have tens and hundreds of instances and hundreds and thousands of databases, is there a way for us to help you land on an even better price point? Or, completely run in a, if you wish, autonomous state, right? So those are the kind of big themes for us, and you can expect that in area of optimization at the fleet or at the estate level will be coming in the upcoming period.
All of our demos are in the portal, right? And portal, frankly, doesn't scale if you have a handful or more than a handful instances, right? So this gentleman here is actually using PowerShell. Other customers are using CLI, custom scripts, and so on. But we want to build properly baked and designed experiences that allow you to do this at scale. So a lot of that value is in the pipeline.
So before we open the floor for the question, I would love to just show two slides. So one is the next one. So one is the find us on YouTube. There are a lot of people from our team and our friends outside of the team. You'll find there more than 30 videos, how to do videos on various topics. So we'll continue publishing these materials, and feel free to reach out to us and let us know if you need something else. Take a look there, and then again the link on the summary blog post for the past announcement, and there is a AKMS. If you want to chat with us about these topics, strategic topics, where we want to drive SQL MI further, you can contact us. We'll try to respond. Right? It's not a SLA 4.9s, but we'll do our best to respond to you and then engage with you in discussion.
This is not something we offer to everybody, right? There's also the Ignite conference, and there's this term no code, low code, and pro code, right? In terms of how involved of developers you are. This crew here is pro SQL, right? And we want you guys who are running some of the most involved SQL deployments in the world to share your feedback and suggestions to us, so do reach out.
Now we can switch to the questions.
Okay, this is all yours.
So one of the, it's probably a bigger discussion, right? We run a multi-subnet cluster between on-premises and SQL running on Azure. Now you might say, why you're not using managed instance instead of SQL running on Azure. Now I totally understand what's the difference between IIS and PAS, right? I'm giving a OS version. And I do not find a clear instruction from Microsoft, right? how do I, like say I have good policies, right, across my Windows OS, right, so where does that line, how do I maintain? So if I'm failing over there as a family and failing back there, right, how do I make sure all my guardrails are, I can also apply there because now I do not have any control over that, right? So this is one of the dilemma that we do not see a clear direction from Microsoft or instructions, and we cannot go back to our security team and say, okay, even though we fail over to the managed instance as primary and keep our on-premises as secondary instead of SQL running on Azure VM, you can still deploy all your group policies because I cannot over there, and we can still maintain all of that, right? So, and I have a Windows security patch here, and manually over there I cannot.
I see. So maybe if I can just repeat, it was a long question. I would say it was more of a comment than in past world, which introduced a concept of a shared responsibility between customer and us. It's not very clear what's on Microsoft and what's on you, and you don't have a good means to understand, did we do our job well, and do you need to do something else or stuff like that. And then when you go between the environments, when begins our responsibility, when your responsibility ends, and so on and so on. That's a very fair point. I think it's a very broad topic, and it can be divided into the topics like how do we patch the environment, how do we apply the security policies and all of that. But I think I'll take it as a feedback that we need to improve our documentation and guidance.
That is one of the barriers. Initially it was price point.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, right? Because we had our licenses, we already bought those, we can apply those in, but now as I see the price coming down, the ratio is better within, core and memory. We can go there with the link now getting bidirectional. It's going to make our teams life a lot easier, but how can I go to the network security team, security risk team, and assure them right of
Yeah. So I think we should gradually answer your question area by area. For example, in patching area, you can rest assured that we are doing everything for you on time. So that's one of the areas where you can clearly say, I don't care because, yeah.
I want to make one possibly relevant comment, which is Azure SQL has all of the possible certifications from all the governments. And that involves auditors from all over the world with different levels of scrutiny, guaranteeing that we do our job well. And the union of all these requirements makes like a laundry list, which is 7 meters long. So I think your networking team would be happy with the answer. We're just not transparent enough.
Yeah, probably my problem is different. I can, I do also run logging as Azure SQL in tab, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have monthly logs. We have no concept. We already we're sold on that. So because here I'm on a number of which KPI I'm at, what month I'm getting, I have this control. But I'm putting this in a always availability group with WSFC behind the scene, which is a little bit obscure. So how do I, you are ahead, you are behind.
We're happy to connect offline.
Yeah.
I want to just give the other folks opportunity for questions. Go ahead.
Yes, with the
Thank you.
capabilities of doing the, say, the always-on copying over to between instances and then from one to the other, what is the setup cost on that as far as not which cost more time, not money, is when you go to do that, how long does it take to set that up and move so that it's ready to move?
So are you asking specifically about database copy and move between instances, or scenario when you connect SQL Server on-premise to SQL Managed Instance and then copy data, like between managed instances?
I'm already in Azure.
Yes. So yeah. So the question was pretty much what is the additional cost of establishing that environment, primarily in terms of time, but also. Yeah, so definitely, of course, you need to have a secondary instance, and you need to set up the secondary instance, right? So time to set up secondary instance is, it was 3 hours now, it's kind of 30 minutes, right? So to keep it up and running. So the configuration for this database copy or move is very simple because it's completely supported from Azure Portal, from other tools. So it's kind of almost couple of clicks, right? And then when we do that, the synchronization process starts, right? So the data is being copied asynchronously, but then you can basically track the progress of the operation. And then at some point, when you decide, okay, it's time to cut over, you can perform this. So there is also a catch-up process at the end. For example, if you don't have a active primary, if you stop the workload on the primary, then the secondary will catch up after, tens of seconds, minute, and then you can switch over. So definitely that should be very easy. The process is kind of guided and supported through tools. Yeah.
From a standpoint of running AGs in Azure already, looking to move to AGs on managed instances between the servers, looking at 2.5 terabytes of data to start and probably growing to 3 to 4 terabytes over the next year. Time-wise, setting that up, is that something when I set up the copy and move, would that be something that would transition to be just an AG instance at that point once it's set up? If I set up, that goes to move, it operates like an AG.
Yeah, that operates like AG, and then definitely the first initial step is initial seeding. So initial seeding takes time. It's proportional to data size. But I just tell you that we use always on a lot internally for our service, right? For example, if you have a geo replication, it's also using always on, right? So we replicate data across regions, and we have up to 16 terabytes support in SQL MI, which was signed off by our engineering team, right? So basically, we have regular cases when people seed 16 terabytes across the sea. So this is typical in the same region. So yes, I'll be open. It takes time because it's the size of data operation. I don't have data with me. Maybe we even have some published data. What is the typical seeding time per gigabyte or per terabyte, right? So it can take few hours for a very large database to copy, right?
But as Borko said, copying an instance or copying a database is one of the fundamentals of how we run the service. And we've exposed it for you to use as well. So it's one of the core building blocks of running a cloud database service.
It's definitely something very interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question.
I think there are more raised hands. Yeah, go ahead.
It's just my personal question. Why Microsoft Authentication, especially in Azure, is a rabbit hole? You start with one area and it drives you in different directions. First time, it's a chance to figure out what needs to be done. If you have quick start documentation, you can go through saying that, hey, try these steps to get your framework set up and running. That's one of my first frustrations.
So can you just repeat the start? You're frustrated with which particular area? Documentation.
Through the documentation, it doesn't give me a direct path. It just wants to different. And so for the first time, who does not have any knowledge of how to do things, it's just a nightmare.
I see.
I go in one direction and then take it into a different documentation.
I can have a short comment, and maybe Vlad has a longer answer. Yes, we also realize that our documentation is not perfect. In parallel with improving documentation and adding a lot of how-tos, okay, we also want and will be exposing documentation directly in the product. We call that customer journey. So for example, you landed on a product and say, quick tips, how you can restore database, how you can do this and that. The video that we showed actually was motivated exactly by this. Instead of doing the course of database, like on relational databases, which is our documentation pretty much sometimes about, we actually said, okay, let's cover quickly 20, 30, 50 topics that bother people, right? So you'll find in these videos, which are typically up to 5 minutes, a lot of useful instructions. So I can only promise that we will be very, very on top of what you said, but yeah, maybe Vlad, you want to say something in addition?
Right, we can always get better, and we are really trying. One of the kind of both blessing and a curse, when you have a product that is evolving very quickly, then keeping the documentation up to date and structured is a challenge. We're aware of it. We're doing our best.
So there is a contact SQL MI address that we shared. Please, if you have ideas how we can do better, just reach out to us.
Right. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Does MI support multiple databases in an AG yet?
So mean having one MI link spanning across more databases, right? One MI link for, yeah. Yeah. Not yet, not yet. We have plans to support that, and please stay tuned. MI link for this final bidirectional scenario is still in public preview, so you can expect in upcoming months updates to that. So, yeah. More questions? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're happy to stay for a few more minutes if somebody has a detailed question.
Yeah, we'll stay here too, if you want to
Or
discuss.
you can ask this guy over here, who is also from our team. He knows everything. His name is Mladen.
MI link questions to Mladen.
Yes. And